Hi everyone and welcome to Priority Holder, and today I'll be playing Mono Black Lurrus Self-Mill in the Timeless format. Now if you've followed my content with any regularity, you know I love playing self-mill decks, and I feel like all the tinkering, all the working with it has finally led to this moment. It almost feels like the final form of self-mill. Like we get to run the power, Lurrus is super powerful, and use it to recur our threats such as Fiend Artisan, Souls of the Lost, and Cruel Somnophage. The reason we're splashing a little bit of blue in here. Now all these creatures grow depending on how many creatures are in our graveyard, and so we have creature-based self-mill to try and turbocharge these creatures as fast as possible. And that's the whole idea. It's not super sophisticated, but we get to run stuff like Dark Ritual and Thoughtseize and Bowmasters, of course. And Bloodghast does a lot of good work in here. It's sort of diversifies our threats by just one that we can just sort of spill into our graveyard, bring into play, and also its resiliency like helps close out a lot of games. Not to mention it's super nice being able to discard it to Souls of the Lost, so like it does a lot of work in here, and I'm very excited about this deck. Let's jump into some games. This is a very reasonable hand. Got some enablers, got one of our payoffs, got some interaction. Would love a Dark Ritual to tie it all together. My opponent slams a Triome. We're going to hammer them with Thoughtseize. And it turns out this is like probably the most important decision of the whole game right here. It all comes down to this. What would you take right here, knowing what we're running? There's a lot of good arguments. I could see maybe taking Inti, that way none of their things have trample. I end up taking Leyline Binding because currently we have one thing that can like profitably block the territorial Kavus, and that's our Somnophage. And it'd be really bad for us if they were able to remove that. So that was my thinking. So we're gonna slam Stitcher Supplier and crack the fetch and play another creature. And I figured might as well lock in the blue mana right now. I'm not sure if we're gonna need it. Like it is costly on our life, but we have the fetch. We're gonna grab the blue mana. And what I'm trying to do here, knowing that I at least cleared one Leyline Binding out of the way, is I'm trying to turbo grow Somnophage really, really quickly so that it can rumble with the territorial Kavus. Now Inti is like a massive problem right here, so fortunate I could be able to cast anything off it, it looks like. Oh wait, no, they can cast something. So the unorthodox blocking right here, I do know it has trample, but like I said, I'm trying to grow Somnophage as quick as I can to be as big as I can. Not to mention that territorial Kavu can police our graveyard, so we had to like sort of go overdrive. I forgot they had another land drop. Means they're gonna get the Ragavan off the Inti trigger, so opponent is just rolling right now. Checking the graveyard to, because we're going to have the option to bring back Bloodghast. I'm trying to see, like, we would like territorial Kavu not to snipe the Bloodghast if we can help it, but we also don't want to make our Somnophage too underpowered, so that like you have to be really aware of that. Looks like it's going to be strong enough though, as now it's an 11/11, so just gotta hope, like, just not have a Leyline Binding for a little bit. Now opponent's attacking in here, getting another Inti trigger, so they're going to eat Souls of the Lost. And I don't know if this is like a chump attack that they really wanted to draw, but you could see now that our creature's in bolt range. Or at least it was in bolt range. And then another Kavu. Okay, so that one appears to have just been a redraw, unless they have like Tribal Flames right here. Okay, Wild Nakatl. So that worked out really well for us. They must have been fishing for a bolt or something, or just trying to get rid of excess lands. So we're doing okay. We're really leaning on the Somnophage though. Bloodghast. That's why you gotta be careful when you play your lands here. We can bring this one out. It seems like Somnophage is gonna be big enough. And we're just going to camp back for now and hopefully draw another land to start playing more threats with Lurrus from the graveyard. Now, considering we didn't draw a land there, we're going to go ahead and lead with Bowmasters. cut down Ragavan. It's not posing too much of a threat now, but it's going to grow Somnophage and allow us to crash in for a ton of damage. So the question is, do we send more creatures in? I'm thinking about, you know, we could send the Bloodghast in and the Flyers, but we don't want to like overextend too much because they have a lot of power and potentially trample on the other side. But decide like we can get the Bloodghast back easily enough that like a little bit of a chump attack's okay. This could allow us to like really put them under pressure. Not to mention we have the Fiend Artisan follow-up, so feeling pretty good about how this game has been developing. Opponent finds a Leyline Binding though, which is really rough, so this could take our giant blocker out of the equation. They put Gigantha into hand. They are sending with Kavu. You have to wonder, okay, so they put Gigantha into hand to discard, but it would have, you have to wonder if it would have been better to leave the mana open. The opponent's not punished because they find another Inti. But we fall to 5, and like that means like if the opponent's packing Tribal Flames, but yeah, they pack it in. So if you enjoy seeing Domain get slapped around, please Midnight Charm, last mode, the like button, thank you, and we're on to the next one. Love to see Dark Ritual in the opener. It's a little tough in the dark, you know, because sometimes you want to save Bowmasters to snipe something. If we had a Stitcher Supplier, I'd probably do that in Fiend Artisan. Instead, we're going to just see what Dreamthief does. So we can bin the Stitcher Supplier, or we can draw. It seems like at this point we want to draw more of our like graveyard threats. Gonna go ahead and lead with Orcish Bowmasters here, just in case the opponent's packing any card draw. And like our Fiend Artisan's not a big threat yet, and like the fact that they're a Lurrus deck, you really want to grow your Fiend Artisans out of bolt range before exposing them. So that's why I didn't run it out right away, and definitely keeping the swamp on top. So opponent presumably has a very aggressive deck. So Searing Blood on the Bowmasters, and they're going to send in, and we want to prolong the game and preserve our life total, so we're definitely triple blocking here. Not to mention it juices up our like massive monsters. So Fiend Artisan has finally outgrown Bolt, so we're going to play it here and attack for 1. I mean, it still dies a Fatal Push if they're packing that, so like the question is, if they attack, do we call the bluff or not? And it seems ill-advised, because that would allow a Bolt to take down Fiend Artisan. It seems like it'd be better to grow it even larger. So we're gonna try and race them here. Alright, we attack. It seems best to hold up Bowmasters and save the Bloodghast for when they actually have haste. Alright, so opponent's hitting Fiend Artisan with Play with Fire. Let's see what else they do. Alright, so 2 for 1 in themselves, but you gotta do what you gotta do and burn, you know, to clear past the big blockers, and so it does open up a big attack for them, at the very least. So they're gonna send in. It seems like a good time to, once again, I know my creatures are gonna get large enough to deal with any of their threats. We just gotta make sure our life total stays plenty high to not get burned out. And we rip another Somnophage. That's gonna be great. There is a little risk sending them both in, because like, you know, Ragavan plus some sort of, I don't know, I guess a 5/5 is like pretty tough for them. I guess they have Fatal Push plus Dash Ragavan could be pretty ugly. Alright, there's Bump in the Night. Let's see what else they have. And they're attacking in, and this time it seems, you know, with how much damage they can deal. Alright, so the opponent has the Searing Blood. So, still taking a chunk of damage. Despite our like massive defenses, the opponent has been like really grinding away at our life total. But this is where the Bloodghast are going to do work. Like, we can sort of turn the tables on them. And we're not out of the woods yet. Like, they can rip some bolts, and then we're in trouble. Now, opponent slams Eidolon here, and that seems somewhat ill-advised. This is me doing math right here, deciding if it's worth it to do the pre-combat hasty Bloodghast, because we are going to fall to 6, which is very dangerous, but doing so forces a block right here. I guess it doesn't actually force a block, but it strongly encourages one. So we're going to knock them to 3 and play our land. and really hope we don't get double bolted after all this. Gonna return Bloodghast and hold up the fetch because we can bring them both back if we need to. So opponent's gonna crack the fetch. Seems like the opponent just got a little flooded, and yeah, Eidolon is basically a concession here. Bring Lurrus to hand. And we just gotta simply attack in and the opponent's dead. So really close one against burn right here, but managed to get there. Once again, you gotta grow your giant threats before you expose them to the burn spells. So another Dark Ritual hand is pretty nice. Always love to see that. Once again, don't have like any information. Like, would have been nice to like hit their like Dragon's Rage channel or something like that. Souls of the Lost seems pretty good. It's our first like real threat besides the Bloodghasts. Playing another Lurrus deck. Let's see what the opponent does. Alright, fetch land, pass. Gonna play the swamp and try and get the damage in first, see what happens. Alright, opponent falls to 16, gonna slam Souls Lost. This is where the Bloodghast they just do so much to like pull the deck together here, because we are very happy to pitch them to Souls of the Lost because we just get them back for free later. In fact, sometimes we actively want to pitch them to bring so we don't have to spend the mana on them. Alright, so opponent is blue-black of some sort, and they have a Lurrus companion, so seemingly a like low curve, at least for their permanents. Alright, we're going to juice up Souls of the Lost and send in, and the opponent has Adrenaline Lock. Adrenaline Lock is always going to be at like full power against this kind of, against our deck. Glimpse the Unthinkable. Mill has become a lot stronger now with Archive Trap, so makes sense that we're fighting it. But the problem is we benefit off Mill, so if they can't close the game on us soon enough, then we start slamming huge creatures. Not to mention we can get free Bloodghast and stuff. So let's see if the opponent has any answer for us. Scanning the graveyard to make sure if there's any Bloodghast or anything in there. And they're going to put Lurrus into hand, and it feels like that's like a borderline concession right now. We have Bowmasters if they try and draw any cards, and we're going to steal something right here. Yeah, we could see an Archive Trap, so we don't have any fetches in this deck. Well, no, actually, no, we do have fetches. We just didn't have any this game, so just trying to overload them with as many threats as possible. Just make sure there's no way they can like sneak out of this. And like, I guess we're playing into a Wrath. Alright, Hideous Laughter is actually really strong against us, but they didn't quite have it. Like, if they were able to get the Archive Trap off, they still would have killed us. So that's how good Mill is in this climate. But yeah, Brainstorm is going to Bowmasters them to death, and we move on to the next one. This hand, we need a land too badly for it to do anything, so we're going to go ahead and mulligan. Phyrexian Tower, just in there as a one-of. It can do some nice thing with like Stitcher Supplier, but it, Fiend Artisan has really strict black colors, and you have to sacrifice a creature for Phyrexian Tower to provide black, so put it on the bottom right there. Lead with Fiend Artisan. Alright, Mystic Sanctuary from the opponent. The question is, do we do the like very all-in play of slamming Souls of the Lost here and just creating a massive creature for them to deal with? We have our black source already. You could see me thinking about it, because we can go with like a less all-in play, because this is using up some of our resources here, but it also, doing so, sacrificing Stitcher Supplier supercharges the Fiend Artisan and Somnophage in our hand, so an opponent has to deal with the 7/8 on their turn too. So alright, they're gonna crack Delta, blue-black fetch. We are powering up those Drown on the Locks, so we do acknowledge that. Opponent passes. There's a lot of free spells now, but they're passing priority without mana up, so I don't know if they have like Commandeer, Surgical, there's a number of things they could have at this point. Opponent's going to cycle Lorien Revealed, play a tap land, pass to us. Another Souls of the Lost is incredible. We're going to play it pre-combat because it does power up Fiend Artisan. And we have sort of like enough enabling going on, and we're going to attack with a giant Fiend Artisan. And now the opponent is nearly facing lethal on 2 creatures, so they're going to cycle Lorien Revealed and get a Mystic Sanctuary. So they're going to need like double push right now just to even survive. So Sanctuary, yeah, the opponent. So I don't know if they're a mill or some sort of control deck. We killed them too fast to know, but yeah, we're on to the next game. Another Dark Ritual opener. And here's another mill deck. So, like I said, mill really got supercharged with Archive Trap. So, it is quite prevalent now. Like, I've been playing it quite a lot. And so that's one reason to like play this kind of deck, is that you can prey on the mill decks. So the opponent does not have black mana, so like Glimpse is sort of stranded. I went ahead and took the card that would benefit most off a memory drain, or sorry, a mana drain. So, but yeah, let me know in the comments, like in this climate with like all these extra mill decks running around Timeless, like, do you think self mill is the answer? Like, run these Bloodghasts and Fiend Artisans and just beat them down? We are really vulnerable to Tasha's Hideous Laughter though with our extremely low curve. So. Alright, yeah, going to bin that. Looking for action at this point. Very clutch here that the Fiend Artisan has enough power to eat up any of their blockers. And I like the no block there from the opponent because they're anticipating Fiend Artisan getting much stronger, and so a chump block is more valuable later on in the game. So that was a good no block from them. Question is, do we actually have anything to juice it up? Now against mill, there's always like a song and dance, like, do I mill myself or just let them do it for me? You know, because Gnawing Vermin has the option of targeting the opponent. There was the chance of like hitting more Bloodghast and stuff. The opponent fires off Surgical and hits our Bloodghast and pulls all the other ones out. So that's the technology mill's running now. Like I said, mill got Surgical and Archive Trap. So they're, oh yeah, and the opponent just packs it in. So they must have just gotten choked on mana, and they were so far behind on board that they packed it in. So they didn't get the black source, and we didn't present them with like a mana drain target. So alright, Stitcher Supplier. We have been getting lucky with these Dark Ritual hands. Like, not every game is like that. You know, some of the games you have to play a little more fairly, but this is like a real like YOLO right here. Turn one, just spending a ton of resources just for a giant creature, and turns out we are facing a black deck and they could just Fatal Push. So now this is an interesting choice. Like, do we Thoughtseize right now, or do we hold up Bowmasters? Decide to hold off on the Bloodghast right now, because we can crack the fetch later on and bring it back. The question is, do we Thoughtseize or hold up Bowmasters? Decide to hold up Bowmasters. So let's see what the opponent's working with. Another basic swamp. Dark Ritual. Okay, things gotten exciting. The One Ring. Okay. Now we're feeling pretty good about holding up Bowmasters. And yeah, gonna go ahead and lock in our blue source right here with the Watery Grave. Definitely gonna bring back Bloodghast now. And so we're gonna hit them with Bowmasters. That way, if they activate the ring, we get more Bowmaster triggers. They are gonna have ring protection, so we won't be able to ding them with the next trigger. Yeah, so we're just gonna have to hit our own creature. Luckily, you can tank the hit. Alright, so the opponent has bought themselves a turn of relief from our beatdown right here. And we can't even Thoughtseize them because they have ring protection. So I'm thinking about what to do. It seems like pretty clear, just bring Lurrus into hand. Like, we can, you know, draw cards off the Faerie Dreamthiefs in the graveyard, but we want to keep our Souls of the Lost nice and strong. Alright, so opponent has a Bowmasters to kill our Bowmasters. It's bad for us because that lets them draw as many cards as they want off the One Ring. Alright, opponent's going to crack the fetch. We finally see another color from them. But the ring protection's worn off now. Now this is me scanning the graveyard to see if there's any juicy Lurrus targets. Like basically all of our nicest things are like 2 mana, so it'd be better to slam Lurrus down when you have 5 mana. Decide it's probably a good time to Thoughtseize. And you always have these very interesting Thoughtseize decisions. So we see a bunch of super powerful cards. Blood Moon, not really doing that much to us. I go ahead and decide to take Dark Ritual, because that's the card that enables them to play the most spells from their hand. Without Dark Ritual, they're basically locked into just casting 1 spell. So that was the rationale there. We now unlocked haste on our Bloodghast and play another massive Fiend Artisan. So we're just trying to really like pressure them before they can do anything. Now, opponent's going to fire up the One Ring. And let's see what the opponent has. Okay, so they play another One Ring. Now, I didn't catch this at first in the moment, but the opponent keeps the ring with all the counters on it. And I love this boldness. So they're going to take 3 on their upkeep, but they have a Sheoldred in hand, which means that when they activate the ring, they're going to be able to gain a ton of life if they can put Sheoldred into play. So I like the boldness right there from the opponent. Alright, we're going to surveil that. Like, it is another threat, but I actually would rather just get another land and just start using Lurrus to replay those things. You could see me almost accidentally fire off Thoughtseize, but the opponent has ring protection, so I'm gonna slam Lurrus here, even though it's like, you know, play like a Gnawing Vermin. I play Gnawing Vermin here because if they kill it, then we can like use its trigger to retaliate on the Bowmasters. So, alright, let's see if the opponent's Gambit pays off. So, they're gonna slam Sheoldred, activate the ring, and gain a chunk of life. The question is it enough? They're going to take 4 on their upkeep, and yeah, they just pack it in. We have too many threats. Now you see what I mean. This deck is super cool. I love just running these kind of giant monsters and like having to enable them and make them super strong and like dwarfing other creatures. It's just a very satisfying gameplay. And like this list that you can build in Timeless, I feel like really brings it all together. Like the fact that you can leverage Dark Ritual, the fact that you can have Thoughtseize plus Bowmasters plus everything else, and the fetches to make the splash worth it. Like it just works really nicely, and it's very cool. And Bloodghast is amazing. It really adds a nice dimension to this deck. It makes it really good at closing out games. And you could see some of the other stuff I considered in the sideboard. Most of it was not very strong considerations. Deathrite Shaman is like independently strong, but we don't really need the extra mana from it. It's sort of like a different game plan than what we're aiming for in this. Troll of Khazad-dûm would be really good in theory, but then we can't companion Lurrus. So like that's like it might be another build with trolls in there, but I think Lurrus probably is stronger. And typically I love to run Mishra's Baubles in my Lurrus's deck, but like it's sort of a tight list. Maybe you could squeeze a couple of them in there. I'm not sure, but I'm really excited about this deck, and yeah, I'm glad you got to watch it.